What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Paul. This is Leeds Therapy. Thank you as ever for stopping by and giving me your time. I really do appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. I hope everybody is feeling refreshed and getting ready to go for the Euros and everything and stuff like that. Now, I've been on a couple of podcasts. I've been on a podcast recently and I've made mention of it in Twitter feeds and everything and stuff like that. So obviously what I want to kind of throw my hat into the ring about is the Red Bull situation. The overriding factor for me is that it is something that is needed for the club. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. The 49ers investment group, the people that own the 49ers they're billionaires. So, we're not exactly unflush for cash or anything like that. And then you have to remember the amount of infinite money that Red Bull actually have in terms of what they can do, what they can provide, and what they can bring to the table. I mean, just looking at it on that side of things from a headline point of view, we're looking at, depending on who you believe, an initial investment of 60 million with another 200 million over the 3-year period. So a 260 to 300 million pound investment from Red Bull, and they get a stake in the club, but they've got no seat at the table. Now, I completely understand everybody's reservations, everybody's reserves, everybody's problems that they have with this situation. I get it, and I get the legacy of Red Bull, and I get the legacy of what they've done previously in the past, which is, ripping the heart and soul effectively out of a club. You only need to look at Leipzig, you only need to look at Salzburg and like the New York Red Bulls and what's gone on there in terms of what's happened. Everything starts off fine, and then out of nowhere it just all absolutely goes to hell in a handbasket. So I completely understand, and I get people's frustrations with that. But one of the things that's been very, very noticeable is Parag actually coming out and saying certain things. So along the lines of the name of the stadium won't change, we're not going to suddenly start wearing red, although people forget that we used to wear red, that we're not, the name of the team isn't going to change, the name of the stadium isn't going to change. None of that will ever happen. Yes, there'll be sponsorship on the, on the shirt, all of that kind of stuff. That's what Red Bull have paid for. Now, Parag is quite astute in terms of what he does, and in terms of when he is exact about something or where he is exact but non-committal. So, for example, in his recent interviews that he's given with regards to people like Archie Gray and what's moving on with the club and everything, so he doesn't speak on individualities. He spoke as the team as a whole, and particularly when you look at Archie Gray, listen, at the end of the day, we know the situation with Archie Gray. They don't want him to leave. He isn't going to be leaving, I don't believe anyways, but at the end of the day, we have to be realistic to the fact some club could come in off for 60 million for him, and that's him gone. That's just, we're in the Championship, that's what happens, that's the way that it is. You just have to move with the times and get on with it, basically. That's kind of how it is. But what he said there cleverly is that he was very non-committal. He was specific but non-committal on his statement. So what that means is that eventuality in time, it can't come back and bite him in the arse. Whereas him turning around and categorically saying to everybody, and I know LUST, I posed a load of questions to him as well. It was almost like he preempted it and came out with a statement before that to clarify a few things. But he has been absolute and 100% in his clarifications of what it will not mean for the club. As I just said, it won't mean the changing of names. It won't mean the changing the name of the ground. It won't mean the club suddenly having to wear red. It won't, the overriding worries that everybody has, he's kind of put to bed a little bit. They have a 10% or 10%. They have a stake within the football club, but they don't have a seat at the table. They have no decision-making prowess. They have no decision-making authority in terms of what they can say and what they can do. Now, like I said, I get people's frustrations with it. I get people's worries with it. I 100% do. I'm you know, I was pretty much, in terms of my own feelings, I kind of thought, I was like, oh God, here we go again. But with that being said, you know, the way that you have to look at stuff is that this is something that the club needs to move itself forwards. Now, Parag had already said that we are, in terms of competing, we're on a sound financial footing on that basis. What I would say is this investment then takes it to a next level, because from the interests of profit and sustainability, P&S, that initial £60 million investment is huge for the club. It's massive. We've got 70 million that we need to pay today, that we need to, you know, make sure that we get out there and get done on time. And that goes a long way to securing that and making everything fine. And you add that to potentially Melier going, Firpo going, the money from Cine, the money from Adams, and Nonto and Somerville are probably going to be going as well. That's just my opinion. And already you put all of those valuations together, just that money coming in, that's 60. What's that? 60, 30 for Cine and Adams, that's 90. And then you look at maybe 15 million for Mez and Firpo. So there's £105 million that we've got signed on already coming into the club. So that's one of the almost like positives, if you like, positive ways that you need to look at the situation. But then also on the face of it as well, what we need to kind of recognise is that the club itself, the stadium is an old stadium now in terms of the revenue streams and generating additional revenue on top of match days isn't something that they can do to a very, very high level. Now, having the Red Bull team, if you like, involved, what that opens the door to is things like, I don't know, the F1 team maybe coming to Welling Road and everybody coming down for a day out for that. Just different sports. So the Red Bull sponsored mountain bike riders, I mentioned this on Jer's stream, or, you know, a performance centre for people to come down to and have a look at, all of that kind of stuff going on in the centre of the city as well. So from a commercial perspective, it's an absolute no-brainer for the squad itself, for the business of Leeds United. And that's what we need to be pleased about, is that we're looking at things in terms of from a business perspective. And yes, don't get me wrong, you know, we now have the opportunity to tap into their scouting network. We now have the opportunity to scout into their performance related stuff. We now have the opportunity to scout into, you know, fitness, all that kind of stuff that they've got, the metrics that they use for that, with all the various different bits and pieces that they do, performance and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, we now have the ability to be able to get into all of that. So for me, kind of what I'm thinking and what I'm saying about it is that I am positive about it, very much so, but I'm also cautiously optimistic, because what I don't want to see is shoots of little things that are happening. But for me, this is something that is an inevitability, and in terms of global, you know, reach, you can't pretty much get much bigger than Red Bull, for argument's sake. It just doesn't happen that way. So it needs to be, I think, viewed as a positive with a bit of caution to go with it as well. I'm happy that it's happening. I think it shows that the business is moving in the right direction and doing the right things to bring itself up to date with where it needs to be. It just helps, like I said, with a lot of stuff, particularly the P&S side of things. And you know, when you look at it on the face value of shirt sponsorships, I think the biggest shirt sponsorship deal per year at the moment is Man City with 50 million a year, and that's done by the Etihad, which they own. And for us, or is it 70 million? It might be 70 million, but it basically puts us, in terms of the country, the second biggest shirt sponsorship deal going currently at the moment. That could all stand to change, but that's in terms of a multi-year deal. It's almost works out about 100 million a year. Again, I could be way off with my figures on that. It's just from different things that I've read and looked at and tried to kind of get my head around a little bit. So I just wanted to kind of come at it from a, whilst we can get emotional about it, and I understand that and I get it 100%, from a business perspective, it really does make sense. That's going to do it for this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And yeah, I am happy but cautious. Take care of each other, and yeah, thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it, as ever.